Hi, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to take an unmodified Ruger 1022 and change it into this. So we're down at the range, we're going to do some benchmarking to see how the standard Ruger shoots, and we're just going to have a quick look at the Ruger, both sides, so you can see what it's like originally. This Ruger does have the extended mag release and it also has the automatic bolt release. So we're going to add the scope, put a bore sighter on, get the scope properly lined up so we can do some testing. We're going to use some SK flat nose. And here's the card that we shot. We're not too worried about where the bullets are going on the card as long as they're doing a group, and the average group size is 19mm. So we've stripped the gun, and first impressions are it is filthy, absolutely disgusting. So we've set up our little cleaning station. I'm going to use some gunk, possibly some foam, and the old favourite, WD-40. So we go on to the foam. Nice liberal coating. Just let that dry. Not dry, but work its way in. Okay, so just going to clean up the top part of the gun. So just going to the greaser. Now, I'm not going to do anything with the barrel because I'm going to swap the barrel out. So that's the old barrel gone. Give that a little bit of a clean. And here's the new barrel. It's a Ruger Hammer Forged, which came off of a previous target gun, chopped down to just over 12 inches, which is UK law, and we've also had it threaded for muzzle brake or a moderator. And that should just slip into here. And that's it all fitted in. Okay, so I've just stripped the trigger and cleaned that up. that was in a bit of a mess, but it's come up all right. Now we've got to see if we can put it back together again. That should be a laugh. So here we are outside, time to modify the stock. I've already taken some glass paper, put the old part of the barrel in there, and I've basically given it a bit of a smooth out. Need to chop off this end bit, so we're going to do that now. Jobs are good. Just going to tidy up the end bit. Okay, that's it. So the next thing we're going to have a look at is just to make sure we're going down the same amount on either end. So we're about 16 millimeters there, 15, 16 centimeters there, and about 12 millimeters there. So we've got to grade this section down another 4 millimeters. So I'm just going to let out where the barrel is. So I'm using a old piece of barrel, so we know it's going to be the right size, and I'm just going to clean out so that the new barrel or the new action can go in there nicely. So after quite a bit of sanding, we've got it roughly right. So I've got 15.5 millimeters at that point, and 15 millimeters at that point, 16 millimeters at that point, and it stays pretty much level all the way through. So the next bit is to give the stock a bit of a sanding, purely because it's got a few dings on it, so we'll see if we can get rid of those. Okay, I've got some 120 grit. See how we get on. So we've done the initial clean up, so we're going on to 240 grit paper, just to give it a final sand off. Oh, I think that's about it. So we're back inside and got the stock. What we're going to need to do is use some tack cloths to get rid of any dust or debris that's left on there from the sanding process. Then we're going to use a bit of True Oil. We'll use some lint-free cloths for the True Oil. Don't put it on your stock because it'll get contaminated. And then towards the end of the process, we're going to start running it down with some steel wool, which is 000 or 40 True Oil. So I've just used something I got off of Amazon. Lint-free cloth. You don't need to use a huge amount of this, so I've taken one of the sheets, cut it into 2 lots, and so basically quartered it used a quarter there. I've taken another quarter and just made it into smaller piles, because what we're going to do is give that a bit of a shake. Oh, don't forget gloves. And we're not going to do anything kinky, it's just to stop us getting the true oil on our hands and making a mess of ourselves and giving ourselves a fake tan. So, bit of a shake, get it all mixed up. There's a little bit of the oil on here. Then I'm going to put that face down in there. And what we're going to do is make a bit of a pad. So scrunch that up. As you can see, it's starting to come through. Give it a bit of a tab. And what we're going to do is just slowly but surely work it into the stock. We just need nice light strokes. And that will dry relatively quickly, and then we can start with the next. Off camera, I've put on about 5 coats of true oil, and what we're going to do now is dilute the true oil and put the final coats on, and hopefully that'll come up quite shiny. So what we're going to use: a bit of white spirit, true oil, something to mix it in, lint-free cloth, and gloves. Don't need a huge amount of white spirit, enough to make it interesting. And give it a quick stir. We're using a Sharpie pen for that because I'm cheap. I'll just wipe that. Let's not waste any. So initially I'm just going to load up some of the lint-free cloth. That's going to go in there. I'm just going to scrunch it up to make a pad. As you can see, it's starting to come through. Well, then I think for the moment that's going to do us. So we've just got to let that dry, probably for about 3-4 hours. So we're just waiting for the stock to dry. While that's drying, I'm going to get on with the butt plate and just scuff it up a bit so that we can paint it. And I'm going to paint it with some new paint. I'm using this because I've got it. I'm using 240 grit. And just going to take the surface back so that the paint will adhere nicely. I'll probably finish it off with wet and dry with the 240 grit paper. Moving on to the wet and dry. I've cleaned up the butt plate and I'm just going to give it a final polish off with the wet and dry. I've done a small amount of sanding using the dry part, so just going to use the normal water, get this all wet so we can give it a final polish. There's still a few marks on there, but to be honest, once it's painted, it's not really going to notice too much, and I'm not that fussed, so that'll work. So here we are in the garden. I've got the butt plate and I've secured it with a couple of sacrificial screws onto a bit of wire, and just hanging it on the twig. Get the paint out and we shall give it a quick spray up and see how we get on. Okay, we'll let that dry for a bit and come back. Here we are back in the range. As you can see, the gun's been finished. I think it's come up quite well actually. The stock's nice and shiny, a few coats of True Oil on there. I like the way it's all come out. It's a nice small gun, to be honest. It's lovely to shoot. And yeah, we'll get straight on with the shooting. So, here I am. And we're going to see if actually modifying the gun has made it shoot any better. I suppose that's why we'd spend the money. Again, everything's exactly the same except for the barrel. And yeah, it's a true like-for-like test. Here's the target. Group sizes have gone down quite dramatically. Most of them are 14mm, with one having a flyer at 16mm. Average group size is 14.4mm. Here's the circle template I used to work out the group sizes. Here we can see the true representation of the groups. 19mm represents the Ruger when it was unmodified, and the 14.4 is the Ruger after it's been modified. There's not a huge difference, but there is a difference. So, summing up, is it worth doing it? Yes, probably. The gun now shoots at 14mm and not 19mm. 14mm is the same size as the 10 ring on a PL14 NSRA 20-yard target, which means if it's not shooting that, it's probably down to you, so you just need to practice a bit more. And thank you to JPC Sports who supplied the gun and the additional bits to allow us to do the modifications.